Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. So last podcast was a friend of mine from Spain. Now we have a friend of mine from the US slash NZ and now living in Mexico. His name is Jason Greenwood. He's helping the B2B commerce industry excel with strategic consulting and expertise. He's the host at the e-commerce edge. 490 plus episodes. I'm guessing by now, like at least 500. An epic guy. Jason is really smart in the B2B arena, in the B2B arena of e-commerce. He's one of the best. He's a keynote speaker. He's a fun guy, you'll see, and very brainy. So let's get it on. This podcast is produced and presented by podpair.com. That's my podcasting company. If you want to start a podcast, generate lead, generate authority, and generate neuron cells, you can go to podpair.com, have a free ebook and a masterclass there. Jason, welcome to the pod. Not my best intro, but tell us a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Love it, mate. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And thanks also for coming along with you and your beautiful wife to my 50th birthday party down in Playa del Carmen here in Mexico. You also live here in Mexico. So yeah, we're Mexican. We're Mexican expat brothers is what we are. So brothers from another mother. Absolutely love it. As you point out, look, I've been working in the e-commerce space for over 25 years now. Have run and built brands, have run and built agencies, and for the last 4 years have had my own independent e-commerce consultancy focused on B2B manufacturers and distributors, as well as agencies, platform vendors, and investors in the B2B e-commerce world, and consulting to all four of those kind of cohorts of customers. Really love what I do. Can't imagine doing anything else. I focus very much on technical and operational consulting. So not so much marketing and branding and positioning, but focusing really heavily on the tech side. I'm a senior solution architect. I've been doing solution architecture for many years. So I come in, I do deep discovery. I figure out where a manufacturer or distributor is at on their journey to digital transformation. And then I help them to get where they want to go with strategic consulting. So I'm not an agency. I don't do development. I don't do implementation. Haven't done that for a long time. And we're a pure consultancy. So we do road mapping. We help suppliers with platform search and select, implementation partner search and select, full scale, full stack solution architecture across ERP and CRM and CDP and PIM and order management, warehouse management, and the rest of the commerce stack, basically. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. And I've got clients all over the world, which I really enjoy. 99% of my work is done remotely, although obviously I speak at conferences and events and webinars, etc. So I do like the in-person thing, but most of my clients would be like 99% remote, unless I happen to be in their area traveling or something like that, then I'll go and see them in person.
Right. And what's been new this year? Like the year started 2 months ago. Last time we spoke was probably 4 months ago. It was quite an amazing day. You've probably reflected on last year. We haven't spoke since then. What's been new at the consulting front, the podcasting front for you this year?
Yeah, there's three things. One is the amount of demand that I'm getting in this first part of this year. So I had more inbound inquiries from my services in the first month of 2025 than I did in the entire fourth quarter of 2024. So first of all, definitely the Trump bump seems to be real. Whether you agree with him or not, the reality is there was a lot of uncertainty in the market leading up to the elections. And I think everybody sort of breathed a collective sigh of relief in the United States. Hey, at least we know who's going to be president. At least we kind of know how this is going to go. And, definitely businesses are more positive, I think, about making significant investments in digital transformation. I'm seeing that. I'm feeling it. All of, everyone else in my industry that I'm good friends with is feeling the same thing. So that's the first thing. Second thing is because of AI, 2025 is going to be the year where B2B suppliers meet customers where they are, unlike ever before. And I'll give you one example. So because multimodal AI has gone mainstream now, and by multimodal, I mean AI can parse images, it can parse PDFs, it can parse CSVs, it can parse plain text. Because it can work with basically almost any format of input data, and then give you something meaningful in return, that has gone mainstream now. And that is being integrated into most B2B platforms. And there are standalone tools that act as middleware between the customer and the supplier. And so, for example, historically, when a B2B business wanted to digitally transform, they would set up, say, for example, a self-service e-commerce website, and then they would encourage their customers to migrate from manual buying channels to digital channels. They would log into a portal, they'd be able to see their prices, they'd be able to see their products, they'd be able to add products to their cart, they'd be able to check out, they would be able to request quotes electronically, lodge return requests electronically, check the status of shipping, check the status of their credit account, etc., by logging into a portal experience. Now, the problem is that in many instances on the buy side, we still have traditional legacy, older generation buyers. And so they're used to dealing with an account manager on the supplier side. So that Bob, Jane, whatever it is, their account manager, they're used to being able to send them an email. I'll attach a PDF to my email of my order, my PO. I'll attach a spreadsheet to my email. I'll send it to my account manager. The account manager manually puts it into the ERP and the order gets fulfilled. Or, hey, I need a quote request. I have a quote request for 1,000 units of this thing. What price are you going to give me? Or I want to check where you have this item in stock. Or what is my normal trade price on this thing, right? And that was usually done human to human. But now on the receiving end of those emails with using multimodal AI, we can grab those PDFs, we can grab those spreadsheets, we can parse them, and we can map them directly into the commerce system as if a human entered it into the commerce system. And it's the same with WhatsApp or Slack or Teams, because in the B2B world, these platforms are often used for communication between buyers and sellers. So these channels have become headless commerce channels with the use of multimodal AI, to where now in my WhatsApp message with my account manager, I can say, hey, do you have XYZ SKU in stock? How much is it? How fast can you get it to me if I order today? You can use natural language questions and get reasonable answers back. You can search the catalog through these channels. And so this is a very exciting development happening in the B2B world, because what that means ultimately is that it helps to make the business case, or the creation of the business case for investments in digital technologies. It helps to create those business cases, because now, instead of forcing a certain percentage of our customers to migrate into new digital channels to justify the expense or the total cost of ownership of those investments, customers can continue to interact with us the exact same way they always have. And by definition, they're adopting our digital technologies, and they don't even necessarily realize it at the time. And so this is a massive transition that I've witnessed over the last 6 months.
Right. Yeah. What's massive to me is that you started like the year with more quotes than entire Q4. I want to double click on that. What's your process for closing? Do you integrate AI into this? For example, I personalize my quotes nowadays, and my close rate has gone like 50% up with like basic ChatGPT stuff, and I constantly go into brain sparing mode to find inefficiencies in the quote where I could be losing points, right? So what's your closing process there?
Luckily, my engagement model is super simple, it's super transparent, and it's all listed on my website. So I offer consulting as a service. So it's a subscription model, like they were paying for any subscription service that they have. It's a fixed monthly fee. The longer they engage for, so I have 1, 3, 6, and 12-month engagement durations. And the only thing that changes is the monthly cost. Depending on if you go for a longer duration, the monthly cost for that, the subscription fee, goes down. It's all sold through my website. It's all transparent. It's all listed there. People subscribe to my services through the website. The website auto bills their business credit card every single month in advance for the services. And then I just wrap that with a very reasonable fair use policy to make sure that it doesn't get abused. It's an all-you-can-eat service, but there's a reasonable fair use policy wrapped and documented around that. And so there's really the only thing that I have to do to close usually is jump on an initial phone call. People really I would say 9 out of 10 customers that come to me, they already know me, or at least they know my content. They've been following my podcast. They've been following my LinkedIn content. They've been following my Reddit content, whatever it might be. And as a result of that, they kind of know who I am, or maybe they've seen me speak at a conference or an event or a webinar or something like that. And so really they're just wanting to make sure that I'm the same guy that would be servicing them as they think they know, they think they know who I am, but they just want to validate that I actually am who I say I am on a quick call. It's almost like a proof of life kind of phone call. And, and then what I'll do is I'll usually follow up that call. They'll usually have a few questions for me. Hey, how do you work? What are the kind of cadences of meetings we're going to have? I have some basic questions. I've got information around all this. I've got information around my consulting frameworks on my website as well. But usually they want to dive a little bit deeper into that, and they want to ask a few questions around that and some clarifications around that. And then what I've tried really hard to do, because historically customers or prospects would ask me, hey, can you introduce me to an existing or a previous customer, so that, as a bit of a reference client, so that I can have a call with them, whatever. So what I've done is I've worked really hard to get video testimonials from as many clients as I can and just have them on my website. They're YouTube videos, they're embedded in the page, and even the free I run a free one-to-one mentorship program, and I even get my mentees at the end of the mentorship program with them. I get them to create a testimonial video about their experience with me, and then I post it to my website. Because what I want to do is I want to try to have as much of the information a customer needs to make a buying decision. I want to try to have as much of that available to them without having to actually speak to me as possible. So really, it's just a final validation step. We jump on a call, and then once they confirm that I kind of am who I say I am, then usually from there, it's a no-brainer. They just say, look, cool, let's get started 2 months from now or whatever, and then what is the next steps from there? And that's usually how it works.
Right. Do you think that people are still interested in just like pure consulting advice? Can't like ChatGPT deep research do that? Aren't people like interested in immediate results and they don't want to hear anything else nowadays?
I think for some things, absolutely. But, I've been doing this 25 years, and ChatGPT doesn't have my experience. And, it's very, very difficult at this point in time for it to replicate my experience. And so it's difficult. It would be difficult for ChatGPT, for example. I do a lot of customer interviews on behalf of my clients, right? I run those interview sessions to help uncover the pain points of doing business with my customers, right? And so that human element is where the real true value is in my engagements, right? And it's based on, when I'm doing discovery with my clients, I can draw on real life stories of experiences I've had throughout my career that mirrors some of the challenges and opportunities that they have in their business, and how we've gone about solutioning around those things previously, and success stories that I can share in the moment in real time with them. And so for the time being, ChatGPT is amazing. I use it every single day. I've got a ChatGPT Plus or whatever it is, Pro or whatever it is, subscription. I use multiple AI pieces of software every day, from my podcast editing software to Write Blogger to a whole bunch of other AI based tools. I use that to streamline my workflows and to make me more efficient on behalf of my clients. But those tools, at least as of today, they can't replace someone like me, because they don't have what is in my head, and they don't have access to my experience. And that's what provides the value to my customers currently.
Right. Are you thinking of feeding all that data you have in your head to a GPT and sell that GPT at a lower ticket? I've had good experience offering lower ticket to people that want to work with me as of late, but I couldn't. And this is an opportunity to go in the ladder of value, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm actually probably going to go a slightly different direction, at least in the short to medium term. So all of my consulting services are one-on-one consulting services, but that either, in some instances, that can be too expensive for some clients, although my prices are very reasonable in terms of the ROI. But there are a certain cohort of clients that, for example, are beneath the revenue threshold of my ICP, my ideal customer profile, for somebody that I would work on a one-to-one basis. But at the moment, when someone comes to me and they might say, well, look, I'm below this revenue threshold of typical client that you would typically work with. What do you have available for me? How can I work with you, but not in a one-to-one model? And at the moment, the only place I can point them is to my content instead. I can point them to my podcast. I can point them to my social posts, etc. And I can say, look, this is my free content. This is effectively my free education. And I offer a one-to-one mentorship program that's free of charge if you qualify. And there's some basic qualifying criteria to qualify for mentorship with me. But what I would like to do, and I'll probably start offering it this year after I get back from Europe, because I got a big speaking tour I'm doing in Europe this year. I want to put together a cohort-based engagement model where, and I'll have it like one in 3 different time zones. I'll have like one in the ANZ time zone. I'll have one in the Euro time zone and one in the North American time zone that's convenient for everybody, where you'll get access to me, say, twice a month for an hour as a group. And you'll be able to pepper me with questions. You'll be able to ask me for advice. I'll give tailored advice based on your explicit scenarios. And so I think that provides a good balance between something that's fully automated, which is really difficult to get right. I think I've seen a few people try to do it, and I just haven't been that impressed with the outcome or the result of what they've tried to achieve in a fully automated way. And I think it makes me more scalable. And actually, in a cohort-based environment, everybody learns from everybody else's questions. So instead of it just being tailored for that one individual asking the question, everybody is collectively learning. And so this is probably the next step that I'm going to offer. And it will, and you know, in comparison to a one-on-one engagement model, it will be like a tenth of the cost, for example.
Right. Yeah, I like that. And I'm having like WhatsApp backends nowadays to offer 24/7 support on that low ticket offer, for example.
Yes.
It's 1.9K for 1.5 hours with me. I fully set up their tech stack, and on the back end of that, they can ask questions whenever they want. And that becomes a community, right? So I love that little hack right there. I want to ask you, you've been active on Reddit. I think Reddit is a cesspool. There's a lot of haters in there. Like, have you got any results from that?
I have. I've gotten several pretty significant deals from Reddit. And I go in there and first of all, Reddit is a cesspool because 99.8% of the people on there are anonymous. So any anonymous environment, people feel free to act like assholes. That's just the way that it is, right? And so the reality is I'm not anonymous. I actually have a standard name, link, and profile. You can go to my profile. I have, all my links to all my social profiles, including LinkedIn on there. I'm a real person. I answer underneath my own name. So I don't act like an asshole on there because I'm not anonymous. And so, but what I find is that you stand out tremendously on Reddit if you are not anonymous. So you can get better cut through on Reddit if you're not anonymous. And I go into specific commerce related threads and I try to answer as many questions as I can, free of charge, just try to give the best advice I possibly can. And I don't do any selling on Reddit. But what I do is I have some subreddits. I have one subreddit for my podcast. I have a subreddit for B2B commerce. I have a subreddit for regular e-commerce. And I'm posting regularly to those subreddits that I kind of own and manage with content that I think will be valuable for that target market. So I agree with you. I think Reddit can be real bad. I think it's a toss-up whether Twitter or Reddit is more aggressive. But I think that because on Twitter and Reddit, significant percentages of the people on both of those platforms are anonymous, that's what leads to that environment. And that's why you don't get that on LinkedIn, because people are not, they've been unmasked. And so they're a lot more cautious about what they say and how they say it. And so I think there's room for both.
Right. Your podcast has been quite successful. If I'm not mistaken, you're getting more leads from that than Reddit. How's it been for you? Has the strategy changed this year?
Yeah. So there's been a few evolutions. I wouldn't say my strategy necessarily changed, but it's definitely evolved, and I've adapted to market changes and market demand. So when I first started out, I was just doing a tech-focused podcast, 1 episode a week. And then as I saw the market evolve and start to need more practical advice on how to do certain things, I added a Monday episode, which is a mentorship episode, which and that can take 2 forms: either clips from my one-to-one mentorship program, that I record clips of, and then I aggregate those together and release a Monday episode. But I also get guest mentors on my podcast to talk about areas that I'm not an expert, that I don't have expertise in, that I'm not the guru in. So I'll get gurus on specific topics to talk about how to execute on those specific topics. Then I added a Wednesday episode, which is focused 100% on B2B e-commerce, because I saw a real gap in the market for that content. There wasn't a lot of it out there. There wasn't a lot of experts talking about that. And I was getting a lot of questions about that and saying, hey, when are you going to come out with content that is specific to B2B e-commerce? So I added that. So I'm now up to 3 episodes a week, but I'm also, I just started adding this late last year, is what I call master series episodes, where instead of just historically, I've only ever had one episode covering one topic with one guest. But I found that there were certain topics that I needed to be able to dig deeper in with a certain, almost like a co-host environment, where we needed to be able to have multiple hour-long episodes to really get into the nitty-gritty of a specific thing. And so we'll create specific master series on certain topics, like PIM for B2B. I'm just about ready to release a 4-part, 4-episode master series on ERP for B2B. All the gotchas, how to do platform selection, how to prepare yourself for a project of this scale, how to do risk mitigation, how much should you be paying, what are the key selection criteria of a platform, all that sort of stuff. And there's just no way we could cover that off. And I had Sam Gupta, who is the founder and CEO of Elevate IQ, who's a specialist in ERP selection and analysis, and he was my co-host for those 4 episodes. So I'm sort of evolving the podcast to add more sort of niche specific content, be able to go deeper on certain topics, and really just trying to grow the benefit or the impact that I can bring. But to your specific question around business, it is hard to put a value on the collective effort of all your content. It's hard to quantify and say, well, if I didn't do this one thing, would I still be as successful? Or if I took this one thing out of my content flywheel, would I be as successful? Because I take my podcast is not only audio, it's also video, and then I chop it up into short video clips for shorts, etc. And so, would I be as successful if I didn't do any one of these things? It's hard to say, because it's a flywheel effect. And usually what I find is when customers come to me, they have seen or heard about 4 pieces of my content before they reach out. So, and they oftentimes were lurking. So they didn't comment, they didn't like, they didn't say anything. I didn't know that they were consuming my content, but they say, hey, look, I've been following you for about 6 months. A few pieces of your content really resonated with me. And, I thought I'd reach out and see if you could help us. And so you don't always know exactly where your content is going to land, but it gives you a certain level of credibility in advance that is really difficult to get any other way. That's what I will say.
Always love your lessons, buddy. Where can people find out more about you?
Greenwoodconsulting.net has links to all of my content channels, including the podcast and everything else. But I put most of my content out on LinkedIn. So just connect with Jason Greenwood on LinkedIn. Be happy to help you out, and hopefully you'll learn some stuff from my content and be cool to meet you.
Jason Greenwood and Charles Cormier.